I compiled 82 best quotes on happiness from some of the greatest thinkers and the most successful people in history. In this video, we will talk about happiness from every angle possible. Why happiness matters, where it comes from, where it doesn't come from, and what should be your approach. Let's start with the question, how important is being happy really? A contented mind is the greatest blessing a man can enjoy in this world. Happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and the end of human existence. My happiness is not the means to an any end, it is the end. It is its own goal. It is its own purpose. But achieving happiness seems to be so difficult. Some say it's rare. There are two things to aim at in life. First, to get what you want, and after that, to enjoy it. Only the wisest of mankind achieve the second. I don't think most people want to be unhappy. It's just something they've gotten good at. Not just good, top experts who can teach at universities. Unquestionably, it is possible to do without happiness. It is done involuntarily by 19/20ths of mankind. For math challenge, that means 95% of humankind is unhappy. In fact, happiness seems so difficult, some people have given up. We don't even ask happiness, just a little less pain. I have no faith in human perfectibility. I think that human exertion will have no appreciable effect upon humanity. Man is now only more active, not more happy, nor more wise than he was 6,000 years ago. He basically means all this progress hasn't made us happier. You may be driving a slick, luxurious Mercedes, but the moment someone cuts you off, you get so angry that you roll down your window, show them the finger, and accuse them of having sex with their mother, still miserable in Mercedes. On the other hand, there are people who believe that it's necessary to experience unhappiness if you really want to be happy. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. You cannot protect yourself from sadness without protecting yourself from happiness. You can't be happy unless you're unhappy sometimes. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. Happiness is like a tree going into the sky, and sadness is like the roots going down into the womb of the earth. Both are needed. Bigger the tree, bigger the roots. What they basically mean is when you have experienced pain, you value happiness more. Should we then intentionally cause suffering so that others can value their happiness more? Maybe I should lock you up in a room and punch you repeatedly and keep you hungry over the weekend so that on Monday when you go back to your job, it won't seem as shitty anymore. Sounds ridiculous? It is. And thankfully, we don't have to go looking for more pain. Life will give you enough pain and suffering. You can keep your focus on just being happy. So what should you do? To begin, you at least must have a clear intention to be happy. You need to be prepared to work for it. Happiness is the consequence of personal effort. You fight for it, strive for it, insist upon it, and sometimes even travel around the world looking for it. And once you have achieved a state of happiness, you must never become lax about maintaining it. Happiness is like those palaces in fairy tales whose gates are guarded by dragons. We must fight in order to conquer it. Happiness must be cultivated. It's like character. It's not a thing to be safely let alone for a moment or it will run to weeds. Happiness sounds more like my bicep bulge. I leave gym for a month and it's invisible. So the big question now, what does make us happy? What are some authentic sources of happiness? Let's start with people. Some say happiness comes from love. Happiness is holding someone in your arms and knowing you hold the whole world. Those who get it, get it. As I go through all kinds of feelings and experiences in my journey through life, delight, surprise, chagrin, dismay, I hold this question as a guiding light. What do I really need right now to be happy? What I come to over and over again is that only qualities as vast and deep as love, connection, and kindness will really make me happy in any sort of enduring way. And it's not just loving, it's about being loved too, of course. There is only one happiness in this life. To love and be loved. There is no happiness like that of being loved by your fellow creatures and feeling that your presence is an addition to their comfort. We often get this kind of love from our family, but sometimes they can annoy you. Happiness is having a large, loving, caring, close-knit family in another city or another continent maybe. I'm kidding. I'm okay with a neighboring country also. Next we have friendship. The greatest sweetener of human life is friendship. To raise this to the highest pitch of enjoyment is a secret which but few discover. True happiness consists not in the multitude of friends but in the worth and choice. Some of the happiest people in the world are those who can be happy in others' happiness. Who is the happiest of men? He who values the merits of others and in their pleasure takes joy even as though it were his own. But there's a problem: competition. Humans tend to compete with each other all the time. We don't like to hear about others' happiness. There is something curiously boring about somebody else's happiness. Yes, right? Isn't it the most boring thing when people tell you, "We had such an amazing time in Egypt. Pyramids really are so huge and I had the best shawarma of my entire life." Oh, that's great. Very nice. And then we compare and envy. Our envy always lasts longer than the happiness of those we envy. And because we want to win so much, we even take pleasure in somebody else's loss. The unhappy derive comfort from the misfortunes of others. Like when someone fails, you act sad, but you're not really sad at all. Did you hear she's closing down her bakery shop? She is? Yeah, I didn't pick up. Oh, that's so sad. Yeah, it's terrible. This constant competition can really occupy us, sap all our energy, make us miserable. That's why many have suggested an approach of love, generosity, and sharing. Remember that the happiest people are not those getting more, but those giving more. If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help someone else. The best way to cheer yourself is to try to cheer someone else up. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. By and large, I've come to see that if we complain about life, it is because we are thinking only of ourselves. Now let's talk about money. Does money give you happiness? Some say it doesn't. For many men, the acquisition of wealth does not end their troubles, it only changes them. It's pretty hard to tell what does bring happiness. Poverty and wealth have both failed. Money has never made man happy, nor will it. There is nothing in its nature to produce happiness. The more of it one has, the more one wants. You better believe him, his face is on the money. But someone says money does bring happiness? A large income is the best recipe for happiness I ever heard of. Money actually is super important. First, your survival depends on it. Then it gives you a lot of freedom and an opportunity to fulfill diverse desires. But other than just a bigger bank account, what also matters is what you work on and how you work. Because some believe happiness comes from work, doing creative and meaningful work. There is happiness in duty, although it may not seem so. The person born with the talent they are meant to use will find their greatest happiness in using it. It is in the compelling zest of high adventure and of victory and in creative action that man finds his supreme joys. It is neither wealth nor splendor, but tranquility and occupation which give you happiness. We all need something to look forward to, a reason to get out of bed. Some say more than achieving your goal, what we need is the challenge, the pursuit. Everyone wants to live on top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you're climbing it. Happiness is not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement, in the thrill of creative effort. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. If you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. Far better is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in a great twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. Give a man health and a course to steer, and he'll never stop to trouble about whether he's happy or not. We act as though comfort and luxury were the chief requirements in life, when all we need to make us really happy is something to be enthusiastic about. But what will happen if you fail at your work repeatedly? If you're at bottom? If you can't even find work that is meaningful to you? If you get bored of your work? Or if you reach your limits and there's no feeling of growth? All of that can happen. That's why we need something to bring balance to our mind. First is acceptance. Acceptance is basically being okay in whatever you do have without changing anything. Happiness can exist only in acceptance. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the world belongs to you. Everything has its wonders, even darkness and silence, and I learn whatever state I may be in, therein to be content. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. It is the chiefest point of happiness that a man is willing to be what he is. You also need to stop worrying about things that are out of your hands. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Happy he who learns to bear what he cannot change. In our lives, change is unavoidable. Loss is unavoidable. In the adaptability and ease with which we experience change lies our happiness and freedom. Acceptance will take away a lot of your pain, but if you truly want happiness, you also need gratitude. We tend to forget that happiness doesn't come as a result of getting something we don't have, but rather of recognizing and appreciating what we do have. I don't think you can feel a sense of entitlement and still be happy. Happiness always comes from feeling that you've been blessed. Man is fond of counting his troubles, but he doesn't count his joys. If he counted them up as he ought to, he would see that every lot has enough happiness provided for it. What a wonderful life I've had. I only wish I'd realized it sooner. Beautifully said. We possess only the happiness we are able to understand. We are seldom happy with what we now have, but would go to pieces if we lost any part of it. Very true. I just love these quotes on gratitude. See, at the core, we are creatures of desires. Our desires get fulfilled, we are happy. They are not fulfilled, we are unhappy. So if you're someone who's deeply unhappy, maybe your desires are getting out of control. Maybe you can start with lowering your expectations. Expectations make people miserable, so whatever yours are, lower them. You'll definitely be happier. My happiness grows in direct proportion to my acceptance and in inverse proportion to my expectations. A mathematical formula for happiness: reality divided by expectations. There are two ways to be happy: improve your reality or lower your expectations. Some have taken an even stronger position. When ambition ends, happiness begins. Desire nothing. Give up all desires and be happy. One problem: what about the desire to be happy? Give that up as well? I hope not. There's a better approach. The happiness of a man in this life does not consist in the absence, but in the mastery of his passions. I agree, we will be robots without desires. Actually, the problem with strong desires and big dreams is you often lose all the joy in the present. You forget to live and enjoy the little things. A table, a chair, a bowl of fruit, and a violin. What else does a man need to be happy? That man is richest whose pleasures are cheapest. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. The happiness of life is made up of the little charities of a kiss or smile, a kind look, a heartfelt compliment. It is strange what a contempt men have for the joys that are offered them freely. Enjoy the little things, for one day you may look back and realize they were the big things. You've heard so many things by now. I don't know if you noticed, but in all those quotes, most of them sound very confident and definitive. Like, this is what happiness comes from. This is the only thing. But in reality, all of them are partly right. We are multidimensional beings, and thus happiness comes from many different directions. There is no one right way to be happy. People take different roads seeking fulfillment and happiness. Just because they are not on your road doesn't mean they've gotten lost. Yes, so if someone enjoys pineapple pizza or a remix of a remix of a remix of a Bollywood song, let them, don't judge. Just as a cautious businessman avoids investing all his capital in one concern, so wisdom would probably admonish us also not to anticipate all our happiness from one quarter alone. That's why never make one best friend. They will get married one day and you'll be left with the pictures of their kids. Basically, avoid any kind of extreme approach in life. We need balance and flexibility. Happiness is a way station between too little and too much. The art of living does not consist in preserving and clinging to a particular mode of happiness, but in allowing happiness to change its form without being disappointed by the change. Happiness, like a child, must be allowed to grow up. And the most empowering thing to remember is this: happiness ultimately depends on you and your beliefs. Your mind and your beliefs do have the final control on how you're gonna feel. There is only one cause of unhappiness: the false beliefs you have in your head. Beliefs so widespread, so commonly held that it never occurs to you to question them. I am determined to be cheerful and happy in whatever situation I may find myself, for I have learned that the greater part of our misery or unhappiness is determined not by our circumstance but by our disposition. The mind is its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. You must try to generate happiness within yourself. If you aren't happy in one place, chances are you won't be happy any place. And this last one summarizes it really well. The essence of philosophy is that a man should so live that his happiness shall depend as little as possible on external things. The more internal you make it, the more in control you are. So guys, did this video make you happy? If yes, share it with that one person in your life who's always sulking. And listen, please subscribe, that will make me really happy. Thanks for watching. A very important factor in mental peace is that instead of just thinking internally, you should be able to talk about your frustrations to someone. But sometimes your friends and family can get tired of listening or might not even understand you well. That's why you should talk to a therapist. Your emotions need regular air ventilation. Your thoughts need regular garbage disposal, like once every week with a trained therapist. At Shridhar Life School, we have a team of therapists that you can talk to. Please go to shridharlifeschool.com to book your sessions.